I believe we are in the prime age of bullets. Today, all the rage is the high, heavy for caliber, high BC bullets. We have them with cup and core bullets from Berger and Hornady. We even have some high BC bonded bullets from companies like Nosler, Swift. We just have so many good options for bullets. We even have high BC, heavy for caliber monolithic bullets. But are they really needed for hunting? In this video, I'm going to show you why maybe you shouldn't get a heavy, high BC monolithic bullet for hunting. Let me make a real disclaimer here first. I'm only poo-pooing on heavy for caliber, high BC mono bullets for hunting. I'm obviously not going to say they're not good for ELR, like for example, cutting edge bullets. They are arguably the best bullet for ELR. At least that's what all the ELR competition shooters use, is usually a cutting edge laser bullet. That's not what I'm referring to. This is for only hunting. Real quick, let's talk the pros and cons of monolithic bullets for hunting. Let's talk the pros first. Number one, you are going to have superior penetration. You will not have to worry about maybe accidentally hitting a bone and the bullet falling apart. Your bullets, generally speaking, with all these mono bullets, are going to pass through the animal. You are going to get two holes. So that's the other great thing that a lot of people like, is that you are going to get a much better blood trail. So if for some reason the animal runs, well, you've got two holes of blood instead of just one. The other pro that I see is that you are not going to have lead in your meat. So obviously these are all copper. There is no lead. There is no risk of lead poisoning. You can keep more of your meat. Let's talk the cons for all copper bullets. The first con, you need velocity. These bullets are very tough bullets. You're just going to need a lot of velocity to get them to expand. This might be a very hot take from me, but personally, where I hunt, where I live, if a cartridge in a specific all copper bullet can't hit 2,900 feet per second, I don't think I'm going to use it. So again, the distances I hunt, I want to make sure that I'm going to have a guarantee of expansion. And so if I don't have that, I probably don't want to use that bullet in that specific cartridge. I certainly wouldn't be recommending someone using a .308 Winchester with the Hornady 190 grain CX. I think it's just going way too slow for it to expand. Unless your shots are within 100, 150 yards, sure, you're going to be fine. The other downside to these monolithic bullets is, along with needing speed for them to expand, well, it's just that. They're not going to expand at slower velocities like your cup and core bullet. I always think you should probably keep your distances so you have at least 2,000 feet per second for expansion. So that really rules out long-range hunting. Now, I'm not an advocate for long-range hunting, but yeah, these bullets are really not meant for it. Even in big magnums, I would say you're pretty limited to about 600 yards, which is a really far shot. But again, the craze today is to take really, really long shots, but yeah, monolithic bullets are not your ideal long-range bullet. The last downside I see to monolithic bullets is they're usually about twice as expensive as your cup and core bullets. That obviously depends on your cup and core, but for example, this ELDX bullet is going to be about half the cost of a Barnes TTSX or an LRX bullet. A box of these is going to usually run you around $45 to $50. Then this box, this one's obviously a little bit older, but I would say today you're looking around $50. And so the difference is you get 100 bullets in this one, you only get 50 in the box of Barnes bullets. Let's talk some brief history about bullets. Back in the day, 70 years ago, we didn't have monolithic bullets, and we certainly didn't have really high BC cup and core bullets or high BC bonded bullets. What we really had, was the Nosler partition, and we had your normal cup and core bullets. Some of them had a little bit higher BC than others, like the Sierra Game King versus like a Remington Core Locked, but in essence, all of them, with exception to the Partition and maybe a few others, were just normal cup and core bullets. And to increase penetration, to increase foot-pounds of energy, we'll talk about energy in a sec, you would go to a heavier bullet to get better penetration. So, you know, instead of saying like, let's use like a 165 grain Partition in a 30-06, say you want to go up to Alaska, they would load a 200 grain Partition or maybe a 220 grain Partition to get better expansion and a little more thump on an animal like a brown bear. So I think that was kind of the philosophy back then, was to shoot these heavier bullets with higher sectional density to get better penetration. Let's talk energy, how important it really is. I think 30, 40 years ago, energy was the end-all be-all. You know, you wanted to put that smack on the animal. I still think it has its place, but nowadays people are going a little farther away from the big heavy-hitting magnums, and they just want accuracy so they can get that perfect shot placement. And obviously with monolithic bullets, bullet construction is kind of king right now. So the accuracy and the bullet construction are more important than the energy. Now, I think energy has its place. I like to show it in my videos because it kind of just shows the power difference. It gives you a number, say, what's the difference between a 30-06 and a 300 Remington Ultra Magnum. You can put a number there to see just how much more powerful the 300 Rum. Now let's make a fun apples to oranges comparison to make a point. Let's take the 7mm 175 grain ELDX, which has a much superior sectional density number than a 30 caliber 168 grain TTSX. But what bullet do you really think is going to outpenetrate the other? I would say 9 out of 10 times the 168 grain TTSX is going to penetrate much further than a 175 grain ELDX. So that's the point I'm trying to make, is with a monolithic bullet, you can go lighter and still have incredible penetration. Now let me get to my point, why the heavy for caliber, higher BC monolithic bullets probably aren't really needed for hunting. For example, let's take the new 6.8 Western loaded up with the 155 grains Barn LRX. Now let's do a hand-loaded velocity of 3,100 feet per second. Your energy, 3308 foot-pounds. At 300 yards, the bullet's still going plenty fast enough to expand, and your energy is plenty good enough, almost 2,300 foot-pounds. Your drop, 3.11 in MOA, and wind adjustment with a 10 mile per hour wind in MOA, 1.58. Let's go to 600 yards where bullets going 2,116 feet per second, and your energy, 1,542 foot-pounds. Your drop, 10.4 MOA, wind adjustment, 3.45. Barnes does have a 129 grain LRX. It's a great bullet for a 270 Winchester. You might think it's just too stubby and kind of worthless in a 6.8 Western, but let's really see. Muzzle velocity, 3,350. Your energy, 3,215, so not as much. Possibly could load this a little bit hotter. At 300 yards, the bullet's going 2,716 feet per second, so it's going about 150 feet per second faster. So you're going to have better expansion with the smaller bullet. Your energy, 2,114 foot-pounds, so about 150 foot-pound difference, with the advantage going to the 155 LRX. With this being a smaller bullet, it is going to be flatter. 2.62 MOA versus 3.1. Wind adjustment, 1.69 versus 1.58. Out to 600 yards, your bullet's going faster. 2,163 feet per second, so it's going to have better expansion, just barely. And here's the big difference. This has about 200 foot-pound difference of energy. Now again, remember, people are kind of straying away from the energy numbers because they just want accuracy and expansion. And then of course it's flatter at 600 yards, 9.2 versus 10.4, and then a little bit worse in the wind drift, 3.72. Now, there isn't a huge difference between a 129 grain and a 155 grain, so let's make the difference even bigger. Let's step up to a 300 PRC. Hornady makes a 150 grain CX bullet, and with that little of a bullet out of a big case in a 300 PRC, you can get it moving quite fast. 3,500 feet per second, you're looking at 4,081 foot-pounds of energy. At 300 yards, 2,774 feet per second. Your energy, still not too shabby, 2,563 foot-pounds. Your drop, 2.38 MOA, 1.81 in wind. At 600, you are going 2,152 feet per second, and then your energy, 1,543 foot-pounds. 8.77 MOA in drop, 4.02 in wind adjustment, so it does suffer in wind as well. Now let's go up to the new 190 grain CX with a hand-loaded velocity of 3,100 feet per second, 4,055 foot-pounds at 300 yards. The bullet's going 2,610 feet per second, at least 150 feet per second slower. Energy, 2,875 foot-pounds, so already 300 more foot-pounds of energy. Your drop, 3.08 compared to 2.38, and 1.48 wind adjustment. At 600 yards, this higher BC bullet, which is G1 of 0.575, finally takes over, and it's a little bit faster than what you can get with a 150 grain CX, going 2170. And then of course you're having a huge advantage in energy, 400 foot-pounds more of energy. And then you have 10.24 MOA drop versus 8.77, and then almost an MOA advantage in wind adjustment. So for hunting, you really see there's not that big of a difference between a stubbier monolithic bullet and the heavy for caliber higher BC monolithic bullet. Does this mean that you shouldn't ever try out some of the heavier monolithic bullets? No, I think it's perfectly fine. If you have a 300 PRC, you should use the 190 grain CX. Why not? You're going to get better wind drift. But I'm not going to recommend someone in a 30-06 or 308 Winchester be shooting a 190 CX. I think you're just really limiting yourself on expansion out at distance. And of course, magnums are the exception to this. For example, I was just shooting a 28 Nosler with the 170 grain Hammer HHT at 3,200 feet per second. So overall, if you're a person that doesn't really subscribe to the whole energy thing, yeah, you probably don't need to shoot heavy for caliber monolithic bullets for hunting.